validate it really well. Once you know that people are willing to pay for that kind of product or to use that kind of product, then go for it.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Jay Christ, and you're listening to the episode 38 of TDLS podcast. In this week's episode, I'm chatting with Joshua Aragon. He is the founder and CEO of Pushkart.ph, an online grocery service that adds more value to people's life. In this episode, we talk about how he started his own company from ground up, the idea and problems they're solving with Pushkart.ph, how to validate your idea before creating an actual product, how he was able to quit his 9-to-5 job to focus on building his own company, and 3 things to keep in mind on starting a business, and much more. So make sure you stick around until the end, and I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I do. So before we go dive into this week's episode, you can support the show by visiting thedesignlifeshow.com. That's thedesignlifeshow.com. You can also subscribe on any of your favorite podcast app. TDLS is available on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, or in any of your favorite podcast app. You can also share your favorite episode, and it means so much to me if you will share it and tell everybody about this podcast and help someone that might need this information or might need this valuable episode. So make sure you stick around, and I think we can go now on this week's episode. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode.
You're listening to The Design Life Show, a podcast that's helping everyone grow to live a meaningful and creative life. It's me, Jay Christ, a designer from the Philippines, best known for being an advocate of essentialism and optimism. I'm sitting down with awesome people to talk about their journey, their process, and the lessons they've learned along the way.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of TDLS, and it's me again, Jay Christ, and I'm super pumped actually tonight. So I'm here with Josh Aragon. So I think you've heard Pushkart.ph. He's the founder and the CEO of Pushkart.ph. So we will be talking about that for a few minutes. So without further ado, Josh, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation.
Hi, Jay. Thank you so much as well for inviting me over. I'm happy to contribute in this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's really that means a lot for me to, I think you can share a lot of values in this podcast, so in this session. So for those who don't know you, can you share a little bit about your background? What are you doing right now? Just to give context in this episode.
So Pushkart.ph is an online grocery service. What we actually do is we help connect our users to the grocery brands that they love while saving them time and energy through delivering from great stores around the city. So what we do is we have actual grocers who actually pick groceries from our partnered supermarkets, and they deliver it to your doorstep.
Got it. So I think can you share your journey before Pushkart.ph? So when did you start this startup or this company? When is the aha moment that I think I need to start this idea right now? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. We actually started this back in 2015. So it was just the 3 of us.
Yes.
We're basically in a coffee table discussion, talking about innovations, how we could uplift the lives of every Filipino. So we were thinking, why not start with our own problems first? So what we did is we dissected problems that we have, and we found out that we all relate with each other through buying groceries as one of the head of the family, or maybe living in a condo by yourself. And especially when you're sick, you have to go down and then buy medicines or groceries. So it takes a lot of your time. So we felt the hassle na it will take you 3 to 4 hours doing groceries with traveling, crazy traffic, the long lines and the checkout. and carrying those heavy baggages. So imagine the hassle that kami pa lang naisip na we're already suffering from this, or it's an irritation from us. How about the other people? How about the 100 million Filipinos who are experiencing this problem as well? So we started this. We actually created how we actually started this was actually we validated the market. So we created a mock-up website where we created a sign-up page where people could sign up if they are interested on onboarding our platform, which is the online grocery. Because back then, there was no superior online grocery yet.
Yes.
There are a few, but it will take you 3 to 5 days for the items to be delivered to your house. So it's still inconvenient. And the prices were very expensive compared with just going to the supermarket. So when we did this, when we launched the static website, people were actually signing up. And we found out that there's a real problem that we have to solve. So when we got our first 100 signups, 200 signups, it validated our process that we have to really do this. So after that, we formalized our concept. We did our business model. We created a framework that we could pattern towards to have a direction, and then we could actually engage and execute. So our first supermarket partner was actually Fisher Mall. We called them. So I got a contact from one of the GM. I actually called him through my cell phone. I actually pitched Pushkart to him in less than 10 seconds.
Wow. Less than 10 seconds. Wow.
Less than 10 seconds. Imagine calling him up, telling him the problem that we're solving and the solution that we have for them. And he immediately said, okay, why not meet next week, and then let's see. So we actually met with him the following week. We actually just presented him a PowerPoint without even a platform yet. And then he actually liked how our business model worked. So we signed the next following weeks, and we started creating that platform. So actually, we started to learn their problem first before we created our own platform. I would say that the better the fit, the better the value. So when we did this, we actually launched our program or our platform in end of 2017. So imagine we were doing it for 1 year, but we're all working as part-time for Pushkart back then. We all have our corporate jobs, and then when we found out that every day the orders grows and grows, we should quit, and then we should focus on doing Pushkart. So end of 2017, we all onboarded Pushkart, and we started to ramp off. So right now, we have actually 6 supermarket chains onboarded already. So we have Pure Gold, Fisher Supermarket, Ever Supermarket, and all these other supermarkets that has given the shared vision for increased sales and limitless scale. Imagine what we could do in order to scale this platform.
That's amazing. So I think I want to touch a lot of things from your story, right? So number one is pitching. Can you share? I think a lot of creative professionals or startup founders or aspiring founders find this hard, very hard, right? Pitching ideas to investors, to potential customer or clients. Can you share a little bit about your insights about that? I think it's really valuable to hear from you as well.
Okay. So actually, I came from a background of marketing. That was my first full-time job. We were selling water and wastewater treatment equipments. So one thing that I learned is actually to be a good storyteller. A good storyteller, and also to be a very good solution seller. So you actually look at the problem of the customer first, create the right specs for it once you know the problem, and then give them that solution. So whenever there's a problem, you always try to dissect what they need and how you could put more value. In technical terms, it's also about knowing your audience.
Yes.
So you should know who you are pitching to. Are these potential partners, advisors, clients, or even government accounts? The second thing is you need to know what your industry is. What's the best practice? Who's the person you're talking to right now regarding through positions, as well as what are their cultures. The third is actually you need to know what to ask for. So all of this, you really need to study. And the last is, why should they be interested with you? So, or what you could put on the table. So yes, you know their problem, you gave them solution, but is the solution will be the right fit for their problem?
Yeah, that's amazing. So I think a lot of people need to realize, I think one of the key factors that you've said is the empathy. So to know your audience, to know the right solution to that specific problem. That's really cool. So I just want also to ask you, Joshua, you've been into marketing background and then you shift into building a startup and a company. So how hard it is? Can you share your experience building a startup? And you've grown tremendously. So you've been partnered with big names like Gold, right? So what's the biggest challenge that you've overcome to shift from marketing aspect to building a startup or a company?
You should really be diversified. So I actually graduated engineering for my course. Then I went to a marketing company, but it's a technical field, which is into water and wastewater treatment. So it's in line, but for groceries, it's really far out from that industry.
Yes.
But one thing in common is actually the framework that I'm using. So it's actually the structure of how I run, of how we do the product. I would say the product or the design sprints that we always keep on doing.
Yep.
So it's actually patterning it that way, trying to solve a problem. Because for every engineering aspects, we always look at how we are gonna design this based on the problem that we're looking at. So it's actually always being innovative. How you could work on creating a better fit for that problem. And that's one thing that I learned, creating a framework where you could actually use it over and over again, even if you're on every different field. Because when you keep on doing it or you practice on doing it, you'll be more it will be more natural for you to create even more startups or be more flexible, as well as be more light in a way that you could actually run this at the back of your mind.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And what about personal challenges you've overcome? Because I think a lot of people, for those who are listening, our audience, right? So they tend to procrastinate with their ideas. They don't know how to start. Did you overcome those type of challenges as well? Or how do you manage your time and you have your work, you have your corporate work, and then you're building this big company you have, or this big idea you have?
So it's actually looking at your passion. At the end of the day, are you willing to spend your time doing this kind of project? Is it interesting enough for you to actually go for it? And do you have the right team? So when I look at starting up a business, I look at three things. The first is the timing. Is your product ready for this market right now? The second thing is actually the team. Do you have the right team to execute? The third is actually the business model. Will you earn from it, or is your model lean enough for you to survive for maybe a year or two with bootstrapping?
Yes.
Or do you need to get funding? So all these aspects we have to think about. I'm sure it will take you 2-3 months to figure it out. But you should always look at things on different perspective. You should always try to validate your idea from different customers. Talk to family, friends. Let them think of what your idea is, if they're okay or not. But sometimes you just follow your gut. You just follow what you feel that will make something that will change your life, maybe.
Yes.
On every business, what I do is I copy all the business models abroad that is already working, and I localize it here. So it actually de-risks you from creating another mistake, but actually you learn from the local settings. So it's actually hard to copy business models from different countries because they all have different problems.
100%. I really agree with that. Just to follow up, just a follow-up questions. I think a lot of people really don't know how much time you need to spend on starting a business or starting a startup. Do you find it hard to, to balance your time or your balance with your work as well? Because you mentioned that you started this as a side hustle, right?
Yes.
Okay, can you agree with me if that's your engineering background was a big part of rethinking the problem for a lack of solutions in our market here in the Philippines, especially in the Philippines?
Yes, definitely. And the engineering background actually helped me create this structure. My MBA actually also helped me with the frameworks. So the discipline with both the frameworks and the engineering background actually created a whole overview or perspective of how I run the business.
Yes.
So yes, it takes a lot of time. Actually, sometimes it will take you at least, I would say 12 hours per day working for your startup. Yes, imagine you don't pay yourself overtime. 100%. So you might go from doing customer service to marketing to product design to even operations. So it'll be an all-around aspect to learn from ground up, because when we started Pushkart.ph, we didn't have any benchmark of what an online grocery or how to run an online grocery here in the Philippines, because there was no real online grocery here in the Philippines. So when we were doing this, it was all about designing it ourselves and really formulating it for the Filipino community. So the difference is what we always do is we try to formulate it within the community first. With this small community, if you were able to validate that they were all shopping for your or using your product, it means that your product is actually working for this community and could scale up to other communities.
It's I think community is really valuable right now, especially for the startup or startup founders, right? There's a lot of possibilities and there's a lot of ways to validate it through communities, right? So I think Josh had a great, interesting and very valuable thoughts about that and insights. So I really appreciate it, Josh. So I just wanna, I think you've grown tremendously for a year or for more or less. How do you what do you think, what's the best practical step that you take to, I think for me, the hardest part is marketing, I think, for me. So do you think that marketing is one of the best key to have your best client or have the investment that you need if you like to you like funding or if you want to bootstrap? So I think marketing is really one of the hardest part for me. Do you find it hard as well? What's the biggest strategy that you've used for the growth of Pushkart.ph?
It's actually creating the product. Marketing comes after when you created your product. Once you've validated the process, once you have a working product that people use, traction comes in.
Yes.
You get your first order until you get your first 1,000 order, then going for 5,000 to 10,000. And it's very, very, I would say, heartwarming, especially when people try to use your product and they love it.
Yes.
It becomes organic. So the growth becomes organic. People actually recommend it to their friends and families, and then that's how it grows. Because you're solving a pain point of a person. And it's this kind of product marketing is the best actually.
Yes.
Because you don't need a lot. It's basically just referrals and increase your orders, as well as focusing on customer experience. Customer experience is one of the hardest part because you couldn't satisfy every user. And there will be a lot of challenges along the way because there's a lot of uneven or I would say unnecessary happenings when you're in transit. Your product might be lost or it might break on the road.
Yes.
So there's a lot of aspects that is involved. So I would say customer experience and product fit will be the right way, marketing comes after actually.
Got it. So I think that's really powerful and that's really valuable insight. And let's go back a little bit about your personal, personal routines. What's your typical routine? Your handling. Think you're doing business, and what's your typical routine as a startup founder and as a CEO? Can you share a little bit about that?
Startup routine is basically always on the go. So that you don't have a certain routine, because when you're a startup, you do whatever things that has to be done. You might wake up 5 a.m. and then you'll be on site already around 6, starting the orders, preparing the items. So it could go very, very long way. So one thing that happened to us was actually, so Y Combinator actually emailed us like around 2 a.m. So I got to answer their call. We had a 10-minute interview. The next day, they actually told us to fly to Silicon Valley.
Wow.
So I just left everything and then I just flew the next day. So imagine that you're working, doing your regular day routine, and someone asks you to fly over. So it's something like that you have to be flexible. You have to adapt with your environment easily. Because startup environment keeps on changing, and you have to be open for it, open for challenges, and always be ready with your numbers, with whatever you're doing. You really need to be deep diving with what you're doing. It's basically living and breathing with your startup.
100%. That's really, I think a lot of people need to realize that starting a business or startup is not a very easy one, right? So there's a lot of...
It's not a walk in the park.
There
will be a lot of bumps.
Yes.
But at the end of the road, I'm sure you'll be really satisfied with what you did.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Because a lot of people right now find startup word really cool, right? Oh, startup, that's really cool. So they want to jump to, create a product. And then once you realize you've been cut off with a lot of work to do, a lot of stuff, right? So that's what I think Josh mentioned on that particular topic. So Josh, do you have any software that you've used for your productivity or your route? What's your best app that you are using until now?
There's a lot of app that I use, and it keeps on changing. Because actually you look for a software that fits you. It's not the brand, it's not how they market it, but you look at the software, because there'll be tons of softwares out there. People always get confused whenever there's a new software that comes out and people will try it out, and then it'll be hard for you to like adjust again or readjust. So what I always have is a task management app that actually records my day-to-day tasks as well as a note. So task and note, keep it simple, and you could actually just track it so that you won't have a problem losing out.
Yeah, got it. So note is really important. I also use notes, so I have my own journal, so like a bulleted journal, prioritizing things that I need to do for a day or for that day. So I think notes is really powerful. So yeah, I thank you so much for sharing that, Josh, and I really appreciate it. For I think
properly.
Yes, that's it. So any books recommendation? What's your favorite books? I think a lot of passion-driven startup founders really love books, and I'm also a fan of books. So can you give a little bit about your book recommendations for TDLS audience?
So I actually read Lean Startups, the Founder book, and it actually tells you I usually look at the autobiography of every founders, how they run their business, what started them or what inspired them to do this kind of business. So I also read about through articles, online articles, via any of the websites that I encounter through Facebook, as well as I also listen to podcasts. So like Recode Decode, interviews of great founders.
Yeah.
I actually listen it day to day. So I actually learn how they think and how they would act on certain problems.
Yeah, that's really cool. So before we wrap up the show, so I just want to say that all of the recommendations that Josh said will be on our show notes. So thank you so much, Josh, for sharing all of that, and I really love, and that's really interesting to know more about you and to know more about your startup and your company. So for the last questions, if you're getting started or you're just getting started with your ideas, what's your best practical advice for those who want to start their own startup, their own company, and to just keep it rolling? Can you share your practical advice for them?
Practical advice is start with yourself. Is it an irritation for you, or maybe it might be an irritation for other people that you know? But you need to make it as authentic as possible. Validate it really well. Once you know that people are willing to pay for that kind of product or to use that kind of product, then go for it. Look at the timing, look at the people who could execute, and look at the right business model to play for it.
Yeah, that's it. So very powerful, and I think that's really, really valuable for those who are really want to get started with their ideas. Right. So before we share your links, before we encourage people to check out Pushkart.ph, I just want to ask, where do you find Pushkart.ph after a year? Like we've been looking. We're now on October 2018. So where do you find Pushkart in 2019? Right? Can you share?
What we want is to be online on the 1,000 sites that we already have. So imagine going nationwide, that we're delivering all over the Philippines. And you could actually get your groceries within an hour or even less than 30 minutes. Yes. That's our main goal right now, to be a focus app, to be a focus grocery app where you just go to Pushkart and order your groceries and you'll receive it within 30 minutes.
Cool. So I will for sure, I will watch that progress and that growth of Pushkart.ph. For those who would like to know more about you, and for those who would like to ask questions about your startup, can you share your best links for those who are listening, and especially for TDLS audience?
Yes, definitely. Follow me, Joshua Aragon in Facebook, or Joshua Aragon through LinkedIn, or Jman Aragon in Instagram. You could also email me at josh@pushkart.ph, or follow us through Pushkart.ph as well.
That's it. So for those who are listening right now, so you can check all the links on our show notes. For those who are using Google Podcasts or Apple Podcasts, you just scroll down and you will surely find all the links or the important recommendations that Josh and I mentioned in this episode. So thank you so much, Josh, and I really appreciate it to have you on the show, for carving some time to drop by, right? So thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you as well, Jay. I'm happy to be here.
And that's it. Thank you so much for listening to the Design Life Show. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/TDLS or go to thedesignlifeshow.com. And you can find the donate button on the top to learn more on how you can support the show. And for some cool extra stuff, you can get an access to my private contents like AMAs, where I take questions exclusively from Patreon subscribers, or check out other stuff I made where I talk about essentialism, design, creativity, and business. I give a lot of value into this podcast that can't be seen anywhere else online. Again, that's patreon.com/TDLS. Thanks for listening to the show, and talk to you guys again next week.